Good afternoon, family. Thanks for checking out today's video. If you are new here, my name is Jonathan, and I created this channel as a way to record my progress as I work towards my goal of losing 300 pounds. If you'd like to join the family, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also, click on the bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos. And I'd really appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up on this video as well. If you'd like to participate on the discussion, you can join me most weekdays where I go live on YouTube around 4 p.m. Central Time. Or outside of my YouTube, you can consider joining the Discord I created. There is a link for that down in the description below. Also down in the description below is a link to a Pinterest board. That is a great place for you guys to check out some of the recipes or meals that I've been enjoying on as I've been losing weight. Today is day 913 of my challenge to lose 300 pounds. So far, through a combination of extended water fasting and a whole food plant-based salt, oil, sugar. I have this video listed as 112. I'll have to fix that. But so far, using a combination of extended water fasting and a salt, oil, sugar-free diet, I have been able to lose 250 pounds so far. I updated that, so it should say 13 now. If anybody has any non-scale victories, I'd love to hear your non-scale victories. If you have any on-scale victories, I love hearing those as well. If you are struggling with your diet, let us know what you're doing that's causing your struggles. If you are succeeding with your diet, share it with everybody. Let us know what you are doing to succeed. And at the end of the day, what are some things that you are doing that will make staying on your diet easier than the alternative? Let's go over here to the big screen. Hello, hello. A few people checking in. Cindy, Plants Only Muncher, Pretty Girl's mom, Ron, Lynette. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a great day today. I had a very busy day. I was hoping for a phone call that would come before 4 p.m. Hopefully the guy doesn't try calling me while I'm going live here, but it has been a busy day. I've been running around doing lots of things for work, so it is nice to kind of settle down and just relax for a minute, but it was a very busy day today. We will go ahead and go over food since yesterday it was Monday, so I bet you can guess what we had for dinner last night. Let me get it going here. So for dinner last night, we had mega veggie chili. It was awesome. It's always delicious. What I bring up every time we have mega veggie chili, which is most Mondays, is mega veggie chili is the meal that we started having that proved to me that taste adaptation is a real thing. And so Pretty Girl's mom says mega veggie Monday, LOL. Yes, mega veggie Monday. But our taste buds adapt to the foods that we are surrounded by and the foods that we have to eat. Just like your eyeballs adapt to the light in the room that you're in. I'm in a very bright room right now. If I turned the lights off, it would appear to me to be very dark for the first 30 seconds. But then after 30 seconds or a minute, my eyes would adjust and then that dark room wouldn't feel so dark. Well, your body does the same things with its taste buds. The foods that you are giving it are stimulating your taste buds in a certain way, so your body comes to expect getting foods that are going to stimulate you in that way. If you change the foods that you are eating, eventually your body starts changing the way it responds to the food that you're eating. When we first had this mega veggie chili, I was not a big fan of it. It was a bunch of ingredients that, I would eat a few of these things, but it wasn't something that I would choose to eat all of these ingredients. And so the first time I had this meal, it was very much kind of I know I need to eat something. This is on our diet, so I'm going to eat it. And I just ate it to eat it. But then after 2 or 3 weeks, we had that same meal 1 or 2 more times. And eventually I started realizing that I was enjoying the food a lot. And that has to do with our ability to adapt to our environment and the foods around us. And my body, the reason why my body didn't get excited about a lot of these ingredients is because it hadn't been exposed to them very much. It didn't know what to do with the nutrients that were in the food. So by eating it and having it more regularly, my body then becomes adapted and realizes that there are nutrients in that food, so that the next time that meal comes up, my body has a different response than the previous time, because it has the memory of having it the last time and how much it enjoyed it and the nutrients that it got from it. So Mega Veggie Chili Monday is a staple at our house. It's not always on Monday. Sometimes we have Mega Veggie Chili Tuesday or Mega Veggie Chili Saturday. It's a very easy meal for us to make. So that was dinner last night. Then today for breakfast, we had our standard oatmeal here. We did actually have mushrooms today. So it is steel cut oats and oat groats with mushrooms, onions, and spinach. So that was breakfast today. I was running around all over the place, so I did not end up having broccoli with my breakfast like I have been for the last few months, but I did make sure to get a bag of broccoli in with my lunch. And so I had a big bowl of potato and broccoli for lunch. We didn't have our table tasty at work. The bag of it that we have is at home. And so I ended up using, and actually both the broccoli and potatoes and the oatmeal today, I used the Sunshine by Tabitha Brown seasoning. It is a very spicy seasoning. It has I really enjoy the aftertaste of it, but I ended up putting that in my oatmeal and my potatoes today just because that was the seasoning that we had around. So that was the food since yesterday. Again, not pictured. I did have quite a few oranges yesterday. I think I might have even had a couple bananas that I thought I was taking a photo of, but I must not have taken a photo of the fruit that I had last night. Tennis and Yoga Girl checking in. Hello, everyone. Hello, Tennis and Yoga Girl. I hope you're having a great day today. Excuse me. So dinner last night was Mega Veggie Chili. Today, standard oatmeal, broccoli, and potatoes. So food was pretty much normal. I have been keeping an eye on my weight. I've been very happy with how things have gone the last few weeks. This previous weigh-in, I did maintain, or I went from 270 to 270.2. But I really, I'm not looking forward to the weigh-in tomorrow. I expected this weekend that I would have a huge drop with Carrie being gone, but that just did not happen. So we'll see how the weigh-in goes tomorrow. Hopefully it does. I drop some weight over the night tonight. But at the end of the day, I've talked about this for 913 days now. So much of this is about consistency. It's not about, making rash decisions based off of individual weigh-ins. It's looking at the whole of the experience. Over the past 913 days, I've lost 250 pounds. So if I gain a couple pounds and I only am at 248 pounds lost, that's still an amazing spot to be in. Cindy here says you're currently reading The Pleasure Trap on neuroadaptation. And it says it takes 30 to 90 days to neuroadapt our taste buds if you are transitioning from a standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet. But you can't continue eating sugar, oil, and salt. Otherwise, your taste buds will not adapt to enjoying the whole food plant-based diet. Yes, it does take a while for your taste buds to neuroadapt. You know, with our eyes, we get that example. They show it to us in science, and we understand it because it's such a short-term experience. But with the taste bud adaptation, it taking a month up to, you know, from a month to 3 months, that you don't notice it. You don't realize that it's happening. And for me, I probably adapted faster once I started eating because of the water fast that I went on. And I think they talk about that in the Pleasure Trap, or I've heard the authors of the Pleasure Trap talk about that, that they find that people who do a water fast tend to adapt to a newer diet faster than people that are just switching straight kind of cold turkey from the standard American diet to a whole food plant-based diet. And, you know, the thing about the not adding the salt, oil, and sugar, for me, I didn't realize how much variation there is in taste within a particular food. I can get a bag of golden potatoes and it will taste different than the next bag of golden potatoes. And I didn't realize that there was that much difference between, you know, vegetables. You definitely notice it with like the oranges. Sometimes you get a really good bag or you get a good orange, but then the other ones in the bag or the other bags aren't very good. But when you add salt, oil, and sugar to food, it kind of levels that all out. So it'll take a food that might not taste as good, or it might taste different, and it just makes it taste like salt, or makes it taste like sugar. So it just kind of removes the actual flavor that the food has, or it covers up the actual flavor that the food has. So that's something that I kind of knew, but I didn't realize how much variation there is. Like the potatoes that we had today with our lunch, I could tell they were very soft after they got cooked, so that they would, you know, I knew that they would mash up really well when I stirred them with the broccoli. Whereas other times the potatoes are so hard that I have to cut them with a knife to get them into small enough pieces. So, I didn't realize that there was that much variation within a particular food. You know, I kind of figured that, you know, a certain type of apple is a certain type of apple, and all of those apples are going to taste the same. The same with potatoes, that, you know, Idaho potato is going to taste, or a russet potato is going to taste like every other russet potato tastes like. But the reason why I believe that was because I was eating so much processed food, and the goal of these companies that are making the processed food is to make the, you know, all of the food taste the same, so that if you buy a bag of chips in, you know, Atlanta, and then you go buy a bag of chips in California, that they're going to taste the same. They don't want to have that variation in flavor because it can cause issues for them, I suppose. But it's also because the flavors that they're creating are unnatural flavors that are very stimulating to us. Carrie's checking in saying, hello, Carrie. Hope everything's going great today. We got a busy evening with soccer practices. So I hope everything's going great with that. One of the things I wanted to talk about today was surviving in a world of excess. Something, again, I brought up the pleasure trap, but that the pleasure trap kind of pointed out to me, or helped me realize, is that we're not dying from lack of nutrients. People aren't dealing with deficiencies, and because of their deficiencies, they're having these diseases or they're having these conditions. What's happening is that we are consuming in excess many of these different things, and the excess consumption of this food is causing complications within our body. Our bodies aren't equipped to handle so much excess. We didn't evolve in a world of excess. We evolved in a world of scarcity. Food was very scarce hundreds of years ago. Safety was very scarce hundreds of years ago. But those are things that we don't have to worry about anymore, especially if you're somebody who is overweight. There are some areas or some places where there's not a lot of food. But if you're somebody like me who was 520 pounds, or even somebody who's, me now at 270 pounds, you're likely not living in a world of starvation and able to get yourself up to being 270 pounds or 300 or 400 pounds. But the ability to get the ability to get myself to 520 pounds is because I was eating a diet of excess. I was over consuming what my body needed, for its kind of nutrients. And we have to realize that the world that we live in is not the world that we evolved in. And we used to have to worry about what we were going to have for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Are we going to eat this week? Are we going to eat in the next day or whatever? We used to have those worries. We don't have those worries anymore. Now the worries are, am I going to be able to fit in my belly all of the food that I bought? Like, I can't believe I bought all this food, or, I got this whole pizza to eat, and we eat the whole thing because our brains are wired to eat the whole thing, because hundreds of years ago, it was beneficial for us to eat all of the food that we have in front of us. And Cindy here says that you think excess reflects excess calorie density as opposed to excess nutrient density. Yeah, it's excess calories, and it's the overabundance of calories. But I also think that there is some evidence out there that you can overconsume protein, that overconsuming protein might cause health complications. In looking at the book Whole, or any of what Colin Campbell talks about, that eating of animal proteins turns on the cancer growth hormones within your body. And so it is a calorie excess. That's definitely what I'm talking about, is that we're in a world of calorie excess. But there are some nutrients, I believe, that we overconsume, or that by overconsuming them, they can cause issues as well. But yes, it's calories. The excess calories is causing you to have excess body weight. It's causing issues with the circulation of your blood based off of the food that you're eating, the excess calories. Something that I notice a lot now is that I don't have a lot of fat around I still have a lot of fat around my abdomen, but I don't feel like I'm as fat around my organs. And I think that's visceral fat. I feel like I've reduced the amount of visceral fat that's on my body. And that's something that fat can cause to a lot of issues. I think that there's like non-alcoholic fatty liver, and there's a lot of other things that having too much fat in your body, in your diet, can cause. Hello, Ricky. Hope you're having a great day. Just talking about living in a world of excess. We used to be surrounded by, few to zero calories. Now we can get in our car and we can go pick up a bag that's got 1,000 calories worth of food in it. Visceral fat. And it's our brains weren't wired to be in this environment. And wiring that, the food environment has evolved so fast that our brains couldn't possibly evolve that fast. It takes so long for us, for an evolution or for changes like that thing to happen. And so the food that we're surrounded by, it continually gets further and further away from what natural food is too. And, you see some of these crazy concoctions that people come up with and all kinds of different things that they create to try to lose weight. Ricky here says, you're 3 weeks into your journey. You're happy to learn from me. Thank you so much, Ricky, for sharing. I hope that it's been going well for you for the past 3 weeks and that you've been able to kind of work towards your goals and figure out your diet and what works for you. And that's awesome. So I'm glad that you're 3 weeks in too, because, the more you can get in, the more days you can chain together, the easier it does become. You are going to be faced with temptations. You're going to have failures. It's just getting back up from them and realizing that it's a process that takes time. Like that's something. When I started my challenge, I said I was going to stick to this for 3 years, or I was going to focus on this for 3 years, because I knew as much as anything I needed to focus on the time. I could do anything for a couple weeks, but it was doing something for months and months or years and years that was more difficult for me. So that's great. Thanks for sharing, and keep us up to date on how things are going with you. So we live in a world of excess, and it's become normal to eat in excess, and it's almost looked down upon when you're not eating in excess. That is something that, every time you start a diet, it's funny how people will start pointing out what your diet might be lacking, like, well, what about this? You're not going to have any more protein, or you're not going to get any calcium from this, or how are you going to get these amino acids? And they start pointing out the things that your diet is lacking. But it's so weird, like they don't think about all of the things that your new diet is providing you that your old diet lacked, and it almost seems like when you don't care about what you're eating, people around you don't care about what you're eating. But once you start making conscious choices, then they have an opinion, and it's really tough to navigate that world because a lot of people's opinions come from their experiences, but it also, some of it comes from, and again, the pleasure trap. One of my favorite points that the pleasure trap book talks about is that when people are criticizing you or your diet, they're in some ways, they are looking at themselves and realizing where they're lacking. You can offend somebody while being on a diet without even trying. Just by being on your diet, it can offend them because they see you succeeding where they could not, or where they feel that they cannot succeed. And it makes them feel inferior. If they see you succeeding, then they see somebody who's doing better than them. And if you're doing better than them, that must make you better than them. And that person can't be better than me. I have to knock them down a peg to make them on the same level as me. So they, why can John do it when I can't? And so they have to start trying to poke holes in what John is doing or what I am doing, so that they can find the issue with my diet, why that diet would fail, why that diet would never succeed. They have to find it, or else they have to face themselves. They have to face the reality that they're just not willing to try as hard as I'm willing to try, or that person that they see succeeding on their diet is willing to try. And so a lot of the criticism that you get from people, I believe, is a reflection of their kind of own insecurities and their own inability to take control over their diet and their life. But and they also love eating in excess. It's so enjoyable to just stuff yourself full of food, to eat the high calorie, high dopamine foods. In the moment, it's so enjoyable to have those foods. There might be, oh, I feel sick later, or I have something, something that happens because of that, but you don't think about it in that moment. And what ends up happening is you kind of end up giving yourself, micro doses of poison from this excess calories. Each time I had a donut, I didn't think about that donut causing me heart disease or health issues. But if I take up and I add up all of the donuts that I had eaten over the past year or the past couple years and put them on a table and had to face it in mass as opposed to in the micro doses, then I might change my decision making. Like if somebody says that this is all the donuts you're going to eat in the next year, and I see this big pile of donuts, I might say, well, maybe I shouldn't eat so many donuts in the next year. But if somebody puts a single or, a couple donuts in front of you and says, hey, this is the donuts you're going to eat in the next few days, you're thinking, oh, okay, that's normal to have that, maybe donuts not your thing. Maybe candy bars is your thing, or going to fast food is your thing. But the micro doses of that excess calories, like I may have needed to eat 300 calories for breakfast, but I was eating 400 calories for breakfast. So I was getting 100 extra calories. That 100 extra calories by itself doesn't mean anything, but you do that 3 times a day. You do that for, 10 days and you gain a pound. You do that for a year and you're 30 pounds heavier. But we don't realize that we are, that builds up, because we're very much a creature of what's in front of us now is all that matters. What happened in the past doesn't make a difference, and what's going to happen doesn't make a difference. We make our food decisions so much about what is going to satisfy us in this specific moment, and not what's going to be the best for us 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so that's one of the changes that I've tried to make with my mentality and with my diet, is that, it's not just what this food is going to do to me this one time I eat it, but if this food is part of my diet, what is the effect of that food over the course of a huge period of time, not just in the 10 minutes that I get the dopamine pleasure. Because if you're only worried about the next 10 minutes, then that's all you're always going to choose to eat the high calorie food. And that's what I used to do. I would always choose to eat the high calorie food, because when I was making the choice to eat, or when it was in front of me, that was all that mattered. After the fact, I might lament it. I might get frustrated that I wasn't stronger, but, but in the moment, it was, it was me just taking a hold of what I wanted and consuming it. And another thing that we have to realize, that not only do we live in a world where we have all this excess, we have all this access to food, just the produce section at a grocery store alone would blow the minds of every previous generation of your family that ever existed. If you were to take any one of your ancestors and pluck them out of history, and bring them to the grocery store and just show them the produce section, they would be in awe of the food that was in front of them, the variety and the amounts of foods that you could freely grab and eat. But we don't just have a produce section at the grocery store. We have the rest of the grocery store where all of the processed foods are. And when it comes to the processed foods, we have to realize that we're not just competing with the calories of the food, but we're competing with the corporations that are making the food. The thumbnail for today's video, I have a backdrop picture that I don't think I can pull up here, but it has all of the fast food restaurant logos. It's got the Carl's Jr., the In-N-Out Burger, the McDonald's, the Burger King, all of them. Yeah, it just has a bunch of them on there. And one of the things that I noticed was somewhat of a theme between many of those logos is that they use a very similar color of red and they use a very similar color of yellow. And they don't do that on accident. They have had engineers scientifically calculate what colors are going to entice people to come to these fast food restaurants over the competitors or over choosing eating food at home. And they found that those specific colors make a difference when people see them visually. So these companies are using that knowledge to trick us into consuming their foods, whether it's subconsciously or consciously. They are making choices that are designed to influence your decision-making process. So we have to compete with not only the fact that we have an abundance of food, but then these companies take that abundance of food that we have and they alter it, they modify it, they add things to it, they remove things from it, but they change it from its original form to make it their version of whatever food that they're creating. And by doing that, that creates profit margin for them, and profit is what their shareholders want to see. And so they do things to drive profit. And the things they do, there's so many things that they do to drive that decision-making process. If you walk down the aisles of the store, there's so many examples that you can see that the companies use. Like I talked about with the colors, that you're going to see a lot of similar colors, or you're going to see certain types of font on packages because that font type elicits a response in people, or the sizing of that font causes people to make the decision that they're making. Or sometimes, the things on a product are like the facts up front. So something that a lot of companies will do, you'll see it a lot in like the cereal aisle. You'll have the box, you'll have the brand of the company, the name of the cereal, a character on the box, but then they'll also have like high in calcium on there, or fortified with vitamin D, and a big stamp on the front of it. And they put those facts on that package because they think that those are going to influence your decision-making process. Oh, you know what? I was worried about my vitamin D level. This says it's fortified with vitamin D. I'm going to buy this product because it has vitamin D. But if you make the decision just based off the label that says that it's fortified, you're not looking at the nutrition label on the back that says that it has 35 grams of sugar per serving and that it's filled with all kinds of chemicals and all of these different things, because they don't want you to get that far. They just want you to see the facts on the front of the box and just stop there. Because the nutrition labels on the side of food, on the packages that you buy, are warning labels. They're designed to warn you of the ways that The manufacturer has modified whole natural foods. And the companies don't like the idea of people thinking of those as warning labels. So they've done as many things as they can do to try to change that perception of what a nutrition label is. So they make you focus on just calories, so you don't look at all of the other little numbers so much. They put the ingredients in a type font that's caps lock, so it's hard to tell between each word, so it's hard to disseminate how many actual ingredients are in the food. These are all things that they do to trick consumers. They do that so that you get tired of the label. You just look at the calories per serving. You don't realize that, it's only 50 calories per serving, but a serving is a tablespoon, and you're going to eat 12 tablespoons of this product just in a snack, but because they made the serving size so small, they can make the calories per serving smaller. So then they put that in a bold number up on top and say, hey, come buy this product. And then when you're comparing it with another similar product, that other product might use a different serving size. I think another example that you see in the cereal aisle, I spent a bunch of time early on when I was doing this, kind of figuring out the difference between shredded wheat, Cheerios, and Cinnamon Toast Crunch, because I had a friend of mine come up to me and say, hey, I was at the grocery store, and for a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, it was only 170 calories per serving, but for shredded wheat, it was 210 calories per serving. And so he was like, I'm going to go with the 170 calorie per serving food because it is fewer calories per serving. It seems like the way to go. But what you don't realize is that when they are doing the serving sizes for shredded wheat, they're using 1 1/4 or 1 1/3 cups. Whereas when they're doing the serving size for Cinnamon Toast Crunch, they're using 1 cup. And then also you look at the weight of the food. The weight of Cinnamon Toast Crunch is like 50% of the weight of shredded wheat. And so that shredded wheat, you're getting like, I don't have it in front of me right now, but you're getting like 68 grams of shredded wheat per serving. Whereas with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch, like 30 some grams of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. So it's very easy to look at the box and see that the one is fewer calories. But if you were to break that down, you're getting nearly twice as much food in the shredded wheat for 40 more calories. But again, companies don't expect people to take the time to figure out how many calories per gram their food is going to be giving them. They're not taking the time to realize that the one company is using a larger serving size, and they do that intentionally. They're using the larger serving size on a food that is healthier or less calories, because if they use the same serving size, or if they instead of using it by volume, or by like the cups, if they did it by weight, then the shredded wheat would look far superior than the Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And then people that are making their decision based off of calorie count would then start choosing the shredded wheat. But the shredded wheat doesn't have as much profit in it because they have to use a lot more shredded wheat to make the shredded wheat. They can take Cinnamon Toast Crunch, they can take the rice or whatever they use, and they can puff it up. They can add air to it. If you actually took it and wet it down and scrunched it up into a ball, it would scrunch up really tiny versus what shredded wheat would. And it's just these companies finding more and more ways to trick the consumer into believing that they're making a good choice, they're making a healthy choice, they're making a better choice. That's a lot of what these companies are relying on too is that, even though their food might not be the healthiest thing in the world, at least it's a better choice than going to McDonald's or like lean cuisine or the lean pockets, like buy a lean pocket because it's better than buying a hot pocket. Buying a lean pocket isn't any good for you either, but they're trying to play on that mindset that, hey, you know what? It's not as good as eating potatoes and broccoli, but it's better than eating this other food. Again, not anything that, it's something that they're a psychological trick that they're using. Another one that they use is lean cuisine. The name of the company is Lean Cuisine. They don't have to make any of their food lean, and they don't have to make they don't even have to make food. They could have the name Lean Cuisine and they could make forks and knives. The name of the company doesn't have to represent what the company is. Like when you see the Hillshire Farms logo on a package of food that you're buying, it's a picture of a farm and a field and a red tractor. They don't have any it's all factories where this food's being grown. It's not a farm. It's not some guy in his overalls with his dog Buck next to him, hopping on the combine. It's these, they can add farm to their name and never have been on a farm in their life. But again, it's a psychological trick to get you to buy their product. If it's lean cuisine, it's gotta be, lean, slim, fast, like they just name the product that. It's just a name. I don't know that people ever got slim and they ever got fast, or did it fast, but it's all, it's all things that we have to continue to navigate. Tennyson New York Girl says, during the month of May, you're striving to eat 0 processed foods. That is awesome. It's a difficult, but you love the challenge. You love a challenge. That is awesome. I love that. And it really depends on how, I don't eat a very processed diet right now either. So I'm pretty happy with that too. But 0 processed, that's really good. And that's kind of what we should all be striving towards, is the unprocessing of our diet. That's one of the books I need to read. You guys might have read Unprocessed by Chef AJ, but I think I need to pick that book up because that's been on my mind so much the last few weeks. Just the unprocessedness of my diet. The processing of food also increases the calorie count, which creates excess. And so, we surviving in a world of excess, living in I got to take this call real quick here. Hold on. This is Sorry, guys. It was we have a security system at our building, and it was a security company. So I wanted to make sure that there was nothing wrong with that. Cindy says you don't get either slim or fast on Slim Fast, but you do get constipated on it. That's great. I tried doing Slim Fast a few times, you know. I think every time I had Slim Fast, it was just adding more calories to my diet. It was, oh, I'm going to start doing Slim Fast, and I'd drink a Slim Fast, and then a half hour later, be like, all right, I'm going to go have breakfast now. And I would just eat the same breakfast I was going to eat before I had the Slim Fast. So I think it was just adding calories. Carrie says I need to get it on Audible, get the unprocessed on Audible. And then she says, if you guys ever have any book recommendations, please share. Reading to books helps you stay in the zone, or helps Carrie stay in the zone. Yeah, if anybody has books that they recommend, we always love hearing recommendations on books. I really like hearing recommendations on books that I can listen to on Audible, because I don't know how to read, and it's just much easier for me to listen to books on Audible. But yes, the unprocessed has become such a huge part of this challenge for me, or from what this is. Yeah, Ron says that from what they can see, unprocessed is either only a physical copy or an ebook, and that's probably why I haven't checked out unprocessed yet, is because it's not on Audible. But The Secret to Ultimate Weight Loss was, so I did listen to that. But yeah, so if you have recommendations, we love that. Back to topic here. Living in a world of excess. Not only, like I said, not only do we have an abundance of real whole foods around us, just, an amazing amount of whole foods, so much so that I could probably stay 270 pounds and still eat nothing but whole foods, because we have that many whole foods around us. That was not something that my ancestors 100 or 200 or 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 years ago could ever say. It would have been nearly impossible for them to get themselves to 270 pounds, because the environment, the world they lived in, didn't allow it to happen. And now, through years and years of technological advances, we're just surrounded by just so much food. And then on top of that, we've decided to take all of this food that we're surrounded by, and we decided to start changing it, to start modifying it, to lengthen the life that it has on the shelf, to increase the palatability of it, to take things that aren't food or were never supposed to be food and then turn them into food. It's crazy. Cindy here says that in December, Dr. Greger has a new book coming out called How Not to Age. That might be a book worth checking out. I have listened to both How Not to Die and How Not to Diet. One of them is very long. They're both long books, but one of them is really long. It might be How Not to Diet, is like a 24-hour audiobook. No, it's got to be How Not to Die. It's got to be the long one. Anyways, yes, I've written both of, I've listened to both of Greger's, or those two books that he wrote. I don't know how many times I can hear somebody say, put it to the test, right? Like, that's his big thing. He always says to put it to the test. Ron says that he's looking forward to checking out Dr. Greger's new book as well. Yeah, it's, for me, what I'm finding now is that I've read a bunch of books. Like, if you're looking for something to read, go into the description of the video here and check out the list of books I had. I'd recommend even reading them in somewhat the same order I read them in. I really like them. The information that I got from all those books has been awesome. It's been so eye-opening. But I feel like I've read everything. I know I haven't read everything that's out there, but I've read enough of what's out there is that I can fill in the puzzle pieces for the things that I haven't read or haven't seen. Cindy says I have 7 months to learn to read, so I don't have to put it to the test, right? So I don't have to hear it, then I can just read, put it to the test. See, you know what though? But I bet he's going to use like real big words and be all kinds of fancy and stuff. But yeah, 7 months to learn how to read. And I'm hoping, this has been my 3-year project on how to figure out how not to die. Like that was a huge motivation starting this, was the fact that I was waking up miserable. I was living miserable, and I was really just feel like in the end, I was just waiting for a terminal diagnosis, waiting for something catastrophic to happen. And, I started this challenge as a way to avoid that, to lengthen my life, because at 520 pounds, if anybody would have come up to my family at any point and said, John had a heart attack, John had a stroke, John suffered from, whatever health condition, everybody would have been like, that's what happens when you're 520 pounds and you're 38 years old. It's bound to catch up to you. Now my hope is to change that mindset, and for people to, eventually for it to be like, wow, I can't believe that he was so healthy. He was the healthiest person I knew. That's what I want people to say when I die. I want them to be like, wow, I can't believe somebody that healthy passed away, versus how it was, which is, I can't believe somebody that unhealthy lived that long. So yes, I am looking forward to living a very long life. And so if I got to read some of Gregor's book to figure that out, maybe I will. I'm guessing that it's going to revolve around eating a plant-based diet, if I had to guess, or it's going to have a lot to do with a plant-based diet. I'm sure there's environmental factors to living a longer life, but I think that right now, after reading How Not to Die, and him talking about how many of the, 15, the top 15 causes of death in the United States that he goes over, how many of those are related to diet and related to what your overall, health outcomes from the diet that you're eating. So, but yeah, I really would love to find a new book that is groundbreaking or is earth shattering, I really liked I think the most recent book that was most recently written that I've read is, I think maybe Fiber Fueled. And I really liked that book because it seems so current, it seems so in the moment. It was research that was done within the last few years. A lot of these other books that I've read are 8 years old, 10 years old. The information in them is still good, but it doesn't feel as current as something like Fiber Fueled felt like. I really like that book. I don't know if I had anything else on dying from excess. We're dying from excess. I'm dying from excess fat, dying from excess calories, dying from excess chemicals in our diet. I think that we have allowed these food companies to take foods that were natural at one time and, change them so much that it makes it unhealthy for us to consume large volumes of it. I don't think that there's a volume of broccoli that becomes unhealthy to consume, or even just plain potatoes. There's not really a volume of plain potatoes that I would be worried about consuming. But if somebody were to eat a bag of chips every single day, that can become concerning, because in those chips you can get, I think it's 4 or 5 times the calories through the same volume of food just by frying it in oil. So anyways, we're dying from excess, and, you know, living a life of scarcity for a little bit isn't going to harm us. And removing the processed foods is key to every single diet. Every person who has ever said that they lost weight on a diet likely lost that weight because they removed some level of the processed foods that they were eating. They are not eating near the they're either not eating processed foods at all, or the volume of processed foods that they're eating is greatly reduced from previously. So remove the processed foods, helps remove the excess calories, helps bring us back into a more balanced environment. So I'm going to get out of here today, guys. I thank you for following along and hanging out for the whole broadcast. I'm sorry I had to take that phone call and deal with that, but hopefully I cleared it up and I'm not going to walk outside and see the cops surrounding the building thinking I'm robbing the place. But yes, I'm going to get out of here today. Cindy here says, see you all for weigh-in Wednesday. Yes, tomorrow is weigh-in Wednesday. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm going to have to wear all my light clothing, think thin, but I'm not worried about it. I really am not. It's just another Wednesday on my way to losing 300 pounds. So I'm going to get out of here. Thanks, guys, for the support. If you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you get subscribed to the channel. If you've not clicked on the bell icon so you get alerted when I go live or post new videos, make sure you do that. And if you have not started your diet yet, what are you waiting for? Get started right now. There's nobody that ever gets to their goals, looks back and wishes they would have waited. Everybody wishes they would have gotten started sooner. So get started right now. I will see you guys tomorrow for Weigh-In Wednesday.